Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Zach Jones. A lot of you probably know who I am. I'm filming from the living room of the supported accommodation I'm living in, and today I decided that maybe I should show you all my natural commodities collection, because as many of you probably know, I've been fascinated, passionate and bordering on obsessed with the natural world ever since I was a boy, and I've built up my own little collection. But I'll start off with a few. I'll actually start off with one member of the terrible lizards that was the dinosaurs. This is a 3D printed model of a T-Rex skull. If I can zoom in a little, I can show you a little bit of what they did, of what makes it so impressive. I'll come closer actually. This is a 3D printed model of a T-Rex skull, and it's not massively big, it is only a 3D printed model, but of course it's actually, because the first thing that always catches my attention about this is the teeth. I mean, Tyrannosaurs had probably the most powerful bites of all dinosaurs. In fact, T-Rex could bite down with the strength of over 6 tons of pressure, and it had teeth that were serrated like a shark's, but unlike many dinosaurs like carnosaurs who had thin blunt teeth for tearing apart flesh, their teeth could crush right through the bones of its prey, even thick bones of things like Triceratops. But also, tyrannosaurs have very large nasal cavities, and actually they had the best sense of smell of any dinosaur. And of course, the fossil records have shown that they might have lived in packs, and a lot like many modern day predators. But I'll get back to that in a minute. The next thing I'm going to show you is that other villain from the Jurassic movies. Well, this is part of it. It's this. This is a replica of the killing claw from Velociraptor, which is also one of the smartest dinosaurs that ever lived, and also my favourite dinosaur. But yeah, Velociraptors were pack hunters, so they hunted cooperatively in packs like wolves and lions and harris hawks, and because their teeth were too small, so they couldn't bite their prey's throat like a lion. Instead, they used this, a large 6-inch serrated claw on the first toe of each foot. And for many years, paleontologists believed that they probably disemboweled their prey, like slicing open the stomach. But now we believe that they more than likely would have used their claw to stab at the throat and like puncture the jugular, and maybe stab at the chest to go right for the heart. And of course, that's not the only thing that has fascinated me about Velociraptor for so many years. It's also their intelligence, because the brain cavity was quite large, so they had a very big brain. And of course, the next thing I'm going to show you is some tooth replicas from a few dinosaurs. The first one is our old friend, the T-Rex, because this is the tooth of a T-Rex. And one thing that always strikes me about it is that it's bloody enormous, and of course it had a serrated edge to it, a lot like a shark, a lot like sharks, and of course that was quite capable of crushing right through bone. And I have to say, if I went anywhere near a T-Rex with a pressure gauge that measures bite force, it would probably destroy it, and I probably wouldn't live to tell the tale. But fortunately, T-Rex is gone. And now I'm going to show you another tooth from probably the most famous predator of the Jurassic period, the Allosaurus. This is the tooth of an Allosaurus. Of course, it is quite longer than a T-Rex is, but it also has these serrated edges. And in fact, if you look at the T-Rex and the Allosaurus teeth side by side, you can see the differences. Well, an Allosaurus was related to predators like the carnosaurs, which were flesh-tearing dinosaurs, so they couldn't bite easily through bone. But tyrannosaurs had very thick, strong, serrated teeth that could tear through flesh, sinew, gristle, and even bone. And that is, of course, a few years ago, scientists discovered something quite surprising about an Allosaurus. It turns out that its bite force was surprisingly weak. Calculations have suggested its bite was less powerful than a lion's, despite being 8 times more massive. But, I know this isn't an Allosaurus skull, but it's the best I can do right now. But despite the apparent weakness of its bite, scientists did discover that the joints at the back of an Allosaurus skull that join the neck muscles were actually quite big. So it certainly had very strong neck muscles, and research indicated that its skull could withstand a force more than 15 times as great as its bite. So this meant that Allosaurus could have used its head like an axe, using its strong neck muscles to drive its top jaw right into its prey. And it's more like something out of a horror movie where this killing method belongs. Well, it's not pretty. It was ruthlessly efficient. But fortunately, Allosaurus lived about 150 million years ago in North America, so it died out way before humans arrived. And next I'm going to show you a 3D printed skull from an animal that's alive today. This is a 3D printed model of a wolf skull. It's more than likely a grey wolf from Siberia. And of course, the thing that always catches my attention about the wolf is mainly the teeth. First of all, the canines here are absolutely enormous, and you would certainly not want to get bitten by one of these. But of course, once you look around the side of the jaw, you'll see these stouter teeth. They're called carnassials, or cheek teeth, and they're what are used to bite into bones. And of course, the nasal cavity here is quite large, and that's because the dog family have a very, very good sense of smell. In fact, their sense of smell is said to be thousands of times more developed than ours. But of course, if you also look right here at the back of the skull, you'll see this section here is where the neck muscles join the skull. And of course, those are actually very, very strong, especially when the wolf is actually feeding on the carcass of something like a bison or an elk or a moose. What they do is they get their teeth stuck into it, and then they can brace back on straight legs with their massive front paws and just shake the head from side to side, using all the muscularity in their neck. And they can eat a third of their body weight in a single sitting. And of course, to many people, wolves are a source of fear, and are despised in many parts of the world. But that's mainly down to the fact that these animals have featured heavily in our myths and folklore as the bad guys. But I think that is incredibly unfair, as wolves are very rarely dangerous to humans. Unless, of course, you are being incredibly stupid and are deliberately provoking them or going out into their land, which unfortunately happens a lot. And of course, the next things I'm going to show you are, because my biggest passion throughout my whole life has been birds, and of course this here is one of the jewels of my collection. It is the egg of the ostrich. It's the largest living bird alive today, and it lays one of the largest egg in the animal kingdom today. And of course, one thing that always catches my attention is just how big it is. And of course, that's one of the main reasons for that is because the bigger the egg and the more developed that the hatchling can become. And of course, it also has a very thick shell, so it's quite hard to break into. And of course, ostriches are found in Africa on these countries that are just below the Sahara Desert. But of course, they lay a large clutch of eggs, but of course, some of them become like sacrificial eggs that are eaten by predators because the ostrich can't possibly breed them all. But of course, for me, bird eggs are some of the greatest miracles of nature. And the next thing I'm going to show you all is the latest addition to my collection. It's an emu's egg. Now, the emu is a bird that's alive today. It's related to the ostrich. It lives in Australia. And this here is its egg. It is quite big, and it's also a very vibrant dark green. And that serves a purpose to keep the egg well camouflaged so it's less likely to be eaten by predators. And of course, there's a size comparison. Here is an ostrich egg, and here is an emu egg. And you can see they are, well, the ostrich egg is bigger, but the emu egg is more oval shaped and some more dark green. But, yeah. And of course, in here is these are all replicas of bird eggs from birds that are in Britain. We've got lapwing, common buzzard, carrion crow, song thrush, and the kestrel, and of course the turtle dove. Of course, these are all birds that are in Britain, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, I've always had a passion for birds, because one of the main reasons is just because of their eggs. I just think they are very, very fascinating. And of course, here is a replica of a merlin's egg. Now, the merlin is a falcon that lives in Britain. It's quite small, probably about this sort of height, and of course that was actually one of the most common birds used in falconry back in the medieval era, because it was flown by the ladies of the court, because merlins can catch things like dragonflies, starlings, meadow pipits, but of course the biggest bird they can catch is the skylark and the starling. And skylarks were a very, very popular dish on a noble's table back in those days. And of course, the ladies of the courts would take their merlins out to catch skylarks. And of course, this here is a well-made replica of a merlin's egg. And it is just incredible to me that a bird that an egg this big came from such a small bird of prey. And of course, here are the other parts of the other egg replicas of my collection. And of course, we've got first one is a hawfinch. There's a hawfinch egg, just right there, the big one. Hawfinch is the largest finch in Britain. And then we've got a chaffinch egg, bullfinch, and Bullfinches are to me one of the most beautiful birds in